All right. So thank you so much for persevering with me and being in this together and for joining me this evening. So we'll start with we were talking about on your Instagram how it says a lot about the soul. So like unsettling the soul and soul empowerment and the coaching, just kind of guiding us and walking us through that picture and kind of like putting us in your shoes of what led you to even like the word soul and connecting to that and knowing like this is also what I want to do for other people.
Yeah, so I think there's never just one quick, easy path. It's always kind of these divine breadcrumbs, I like to call them. So my first experience with kind of this realm was at 17 when I found Louise Hay's work. And she kind of just lifted the lid off my brain is how I like to think of it. It just opened me up to a whole new realm. So I've always been into spirituality and that whole kind of thing. But it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I'd been a stay-at-home mom for quite a few years. And one night it just all kind of culminated and it just became too much for me. My kids woke up at 4 a.m. It was right around one of the time changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember thinking like, I can't do this. I'm going to snap. And so I woke my husband up and said, you need to take the kids, get up with them. I need to go for a drive. And on that drive, as crazy as it sounds, I screamed at God to fix my life because I had always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and I couldn't understand why I'd given up so much for my kids, which at the time I thought being a martyr mom was like better than, regular moms who still gym and did for themselves. But I had completely depleted myself. There was nothing left. And on that drive, I had kind of said to God, fix my life. If I was meant to be a mom, I don't want it to feel like this. And, you did this to me. And I'm sure you'll understand this in a voice that sounded like my own, but that was clearly not my own consciousness said, I didn't do this to you. You did. And in that moment, I kind of started to piece myself back together and refound my spirituality, which I had lost and forgotten about. And just over the course of time, I had done different things. I had studied NLP. It wasn't quite right for me. Hypnotherapy, same thing, coaching. And on it went until I found something called Girl Life Empowerment. And so it was the series of workshops that I facilitated for young girls. And one of them was inner knowing. And I remember teaching that workshop and something clicked and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my thing. And for some reason, it just kind of started flooding back, that intuition piece, the soul piece. That was just always my thing. I've always felt I've had a big mission from a young age, but there was never a university course on this. There was never anything. So I've just kind of fumbled my way forward. And one day while sitting at my table, it just all kind of poured out. It was like a divine download and it just kind of hit me. And it was Soul Speak was the name of the workshop that came to me. And it was like my hand could not even keep up with the ideas that were flowing in. Woo for non-weirdos was another kind of incarnation of it. And it was just kind of the idea that I needed to be teaching practical woo tips to people and reconnect them with their soul. Because it's my truest belief that we really wouldn't see what we're seeing in the world, with the Donald Trumps and that sort of thing, if people were connected with that deeper soul self and in tune with their intuition.
That's so wonderful. I want to come back to when you felt like as a kid that you knew you were made for like something more. Almost just like, that's so great. Talk to us a little bit about that. Like, what did that feel like? Like as a kid, like, did you feel like you couldn't talk to people about that? Just what did that feel like in your body?
Yeah, so I clearly remember being about 5 and I grew up on my grandmother's farm. And I remember being in the field and I just had this overwhelming feeling my whole childhood, my whole life, that I had to get to work. And I didn't know what that was. I just knew I was here on an assignment and I was here to do a job. And it was actually really frustrating my whole life because I could never quite figure it out. I could never quite pinpoint what that was. Looking back, I can see that I loved church, but that my intuition would also speak a lot in church because the priests would preach about something and then something in me would just say, that's not right. There was no women represented in the book. I've always had a strong affinity to Mary Magdalene. I don't know, just weird random things that kind of led me to realize what it was. And it wasn't until I realized that people have soul callings, kind of those vocations that are put on their soul where it feels like you can't deny it, that I realized that's kind of what has been up my whole life.
It's funny that you said that because I've never really thought about that feeling, but I do remember being as a kid, like just being excited to be independent. It's like being like, get me out of here. Like I need to do what I need to do. Like
Yes, that's
I
the
want to
feeling.
be independent, make my own money and do these things and like don't tell me what to do because I know what I want to do. Like just that independent feeling. So
Yeah.
I really can relate to the fact that you said like you knew you had to get to work, but like I've never heard it worded in that way. So I just had an aha moment there. So thank you very much for that.
I love it. And we talked about that
Yeah.
before when people say, what do you do? And I really can't put my finger on it. And we joked about it, that that's what happens. I talk and people have ahas and then they're like, oh, this is what I need
Yeah.
to do. So I don't know how exactly you peg that. I'm always kind of tweaking that on Instagram. Kind of spiritual empowerment coach is what's landed and felt the most true so far. But yeah, it's a
And
little
that's what I
random.
feel like that's what the in between is because I sometimes go through that too. Like, what wording should I use? And what feeling do I want other people to have when they read this? And because it's like we're wanting them to understand on the soul level almost through this like light language. Like, we just want them to know, you
Yeah.
know?
And I don't know if you can describe it, but that's kind of what it's like. I'm like, I can't put it into traditional business terms. It's just, it is what it is. I can't tell you why you should listen to me. You just should.
Yes. And
And
then
not
like
in a, I want to be your guru kind of way, but in a, if you do it, I know you'll feel better kind of way.
yes, because then there's that clash of being like, how do I get to that level? Also meeting people on the level of like the human spirit, this 3D perception, everything that we're in now. Like, what words do I use to meet them where they are while also bringing them to where I know they can be?
Yeah.
And it's really hard to like do that when it's just like more of a feeling or just more of a knowing. So I guess my next question that kind of leads to like for the people you have helped to this point or that you're looking to also help, like how have they found you? Was it through word of mouth? Was it through Instagram? Was it like, okay, I just had this like come to the universe moment and I searched and I found you? Like, how do people come to you?
It's usually word of mouth. Like I said, I've done some workshops, so it's been that way, you know, friends of friends. And just people that knew me kind of as I've fumbled my way forward, and just because I really did start with, you know, the NLP hypnotherapy kind of aspect. It just never really stuck for me. It was always something more spiritual, or soul led, because before it was Unsettle Your Life, it was the Soul Led Life was kind of my handle.
Hmm.
Because that's what I'm trying to get people to, is leading their decisions in their lives from that soul place. And unsettle kind of came from realizing that my whole life, that's what I've been preaching to people, is we're these big expansive beings full of potentiality, and there's no need for us to have lives that feel so crappy.
And hearing those words, that kind of like signals to me that right now we are in a time that people are being unsettled. So,
Yeah.
what are like some words of like wisdom or advice or direction for anyone that will be listening to this and feeling unsettled, but kind of knowing like, hey, there were areas that I was settling in like what's a way just to guide them from here on out of not settling again, but also like kind of being okay in the unsettling to follow that soul-led path?
Yeah, definitely. If you're going to follow your soul, there is not going to be a lot of certainty. Intuition is not logic, and you have to just get comfortable with the uncertainty. I usually really encourage people to add in practices, like add in the practice of listening to your intuition in small ways. Not life changing. Don't start with, should I leave my career? Start with something really simple as, going for a drive and letting your intuition speak up and say, go left instead of right. Or I've seen it, tell me that I need to go to a certain store at a certain time, and then I run into somebody. Spirit has such a huge way of guiding and directing our life. If we can just kind of take our hands off the steering wheel a little bit, I think the biggest thing is just to start with your intuition. Listen quietly, and have patience with it. Because just like a child, that if you haven't let it speak for a long time, it's not just going to tell you its messages loudly. It's going to come in very timidly and very quietly, and that's okay. And just, I'm huge on unsettling, because I've learned the hard way that when we don't wake up, we get the wake up call. So if you are feeling the call to unsettle, listen now before there is a major life crisis, because
It's
it will
so
happen.
true.
Yeah. Your soul is trying to wake you up. You came here for a purpose, a mission, and that is the whole reason you're here. So there's no point in fighting it, because you will keep getting the knocks upside the head until you decide to listen.
And when you were talking, I was like, I should ask her like some examples of this. And then you said that with the crisis. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so true. So what are some examples of times that like you didn't listen to your intuition, but that also kind of made your trust in your intuition stronger?
Yeah, so that was kind of the path to finding what I found now. When I looked at my life when I was really depleted in motherhood, it was because I had settled for a lot of little things. I really didn't speak up when things didn't sit well with me. Said yes when I wanted to say no, and vice versa. Said no when I wanted to say yes to opportunities. And just through a series of overriding the intuition that my soul was trying to speak to me through, I had completely depleted that life force energy, because I wasn't doing anything that fed that part of myself. Trying to think, what were some big ones? I know I've got a lot of examples. More examples though of when it went right.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think though. I know there is definitely some where I did not listen.
Well, still giving you an example of when it went right. That's still a great example. So we could start with that one.
Yeah, so one of my earliest ones is, I remember being at the mall, and I was a very independent child, my brother not so much. And he needed to use the washroom, and because it was the 80s, my mom said, can you take him, leave the store and go down this big long hallway and take your brother to the bathroom? And I said no. And I was not a defiant child. I mostly did what I was told. And she was really quite irritated with me for not listening. And when we went down, there was quite a scuffle happening outside the bathroom. There was a gentleman who was being detained by security guards for police to show up. And I don't know really the circumstances around it. But I remember my mom saying, I'm so glad you listened to your intuition there, because, you really could have been caught in a dangerous situation.
Oh, that's a great
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
And it was also like teaching your mom at the same time.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes you want to ask too, like, in what ways have you kind of been that way shower, like in your family even?
I think I'm a reluctant way shower, in that they're reluctant to follow.
Yeah.
I think that's the hard thing, I think, about being a leader, is that it often doesn't make sense, and people don't understand it, and it can lead you to kind of question yourself. But just, I don't know, it's kept me out of like health crises. It's helped me when delivering my children. I think my family's slowly coming around to seeing that, really listening to your intuition and listening to that soul. Spirit can 10 times what we could ever do with our human potential on its own. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not great at thinking on my feet. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, those are all great answers. I also kind of had a question pop today when I was thinking about our interview, because I recently read some of Tosha Silver's work, which is
I
more
love,
about like, yeah, like her work is so different, I find, in the sense that she's like, just offer it all up, but
yeah,
also like it's different than manifesting. And that's something that I feel really curious about.
okay.
And even for right now, like I feel like people get stuck, like what's in my control, what's not in my control, what should I offer up,
Yeah.
what should I do for like the vision board and manifesting. What is your perspective on like the surrendering and offering compared to manifesting?
I struggle with it a little bit, only because I think a lot of the times vision boards are coming from our ego more than that deeper soul feelings. I think if we
Mm-hmm.
really get quiet, the things our souls are asking for are generally very simple things, and most often it involves giving rather than receiving. Um, that being said, I have no shame in saying I would rather wear a ball gown than jeans any day of the week. I would like a very luxurious life. I have no problem saying that. Um, I think you do manifest by lots and lots of gratitude for placing your energy where
Mm-hmm.
you want it to go. I very much believe in manifesting, but kind of move your feet as you pray. Don't just
Ooh,
sit
I
back.
love that. Move your feet as you pray. Oh my God. Okay,
Yeah,
you need to like put that on like shirts and mugs and like
I got it from someone. I
everywhere.
just don't know. I think it's like an African proverb, actually. As you pray, move your feet. So I do believe that,
Ooh.
we can make those requests, but I really do believe that soul and God and whatever that spirit power is really knows more than we do. So I think it's okay to say, this is what I want, but I think, you really do have to surrender to it being different than what you thought it was going to look like.
Oh, I love that. Because in that there's like grief, but also like embracing the fact that you don't always know better. It's like actually the source knows more
Yeah.
about what you need and your destiny than what you could have ever imagined.
Yeah. Usually one practice I like to take people through, and I believe it originated with Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way, is called a God box. So you make your to-do
Mm.
list of things you want to do, or would like to happen. And they're the things that you can control. So if you wanted a new car, you could, start looking on Kijiji or going to car dealerships. But you could also write down what you can't control. So the things you would like God or the universe to handle for you. So maybe you're going to look for the car, but you need it to be a certain dollar amount to be able to afford it each month. So you write those details down and you put it in your God box. And so that's kind of a way of moving your feet as you pray. You're saying, this is beyond my control. I'm going to trust God to allow a car to show up for me. That's something I'm desiring, not just some like jalopy, but also you're going to do your work while you're at it.
That's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I feel like people struggle with that feeling of not wanting to be passive, but it's like, well, it's not passive. Like you're really working with this other force as well. So I love how you explained all that. It's more about, I guess, changing the mindset is what is needed.
Yeah, just that co-creation, just really believing that we are in a playful universe that wants to give to us. My truest belief is that, as a parent, I would give my kids anything they wanted, that would be good for them. I can't imagine a creator that does not also feel that way about each of us.
Mhm. For anyone that like is new to your work and really finds your offerings,
Yeah.
what is it that you have available right now for people?
So right now I have kind of one-to-one coaching available. Um, I have a couple of things coming down the pipeline that have not been announced yet, but that's just kind of mostly the one-to-one coaching and just a lot of free offerings right now. I'm just kind of pumping out the content and hoping to help people kind of wake up during this whole COVID thing, and really just making it okay to start unsettling and not go for the norm and really reach for something more that feels so much more purposeful and fulfilling. So Instagram's kind of
Mhm.
one of my big ones. And I do have a website. It's un-settle.com. Obviously, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm always open for like DMs or just chatting.
That's great. Because yeah, right now it's a time where it's like people need the help, but we're also trying to run a business. So it's really this fine balance of being like, here's some free things, but I also want to work with you, and really being that way shower to show people like, here's the new way. We got this. Like, I got
Yeah.
your back. We got this. Here we go.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite terms.
I love that. I want to ask one more question.
Yeah.
Right now, like I know personally, just from some other people like that I know that have reached out, looking like just to talk or looking for guidance and help in a certain way,
Yeah.
that a theme that has been coming up is, like you said, about being like the mother and being in this role and with the kids. And especially right now, like maybe it's someone who was a working mother that now is home all the time and that wasn't like their normal.
Yeah.
And finding these like expectations still being put on them in different ways, while being like, hey, like I also need help from my partner, or maybe I need to ask more of my kids. For anyone who is in that situation right now where things are looking so different, but also like we are going to be in this period of time for a long time,
Yeah.
what is some guidance, like either from personal experience or just like from the soul, that you feel you could offer them just to help cope or like give them that extra like power of the self in that moment?
Yeah, show up for yourself first was my biggest lesson. You cannot, I know it's like such an old adage and it's almost annoying, but you really can't give from an empty cup. So, one of the reasons I love working with moms so much is because it wasn't always realistic, the coaching advice that I would get. Um, it didn't always fit with motherhood. So, if you can get up a little bit earlier, really try to give yourself an hour if possible. I know it's not always possible, but kind of sit and do maybe 10 or 15 minutes of a meditation, um, 10 minutes to really just kind of let it all flow out of you, and then 10 minutes to just tap into your soul and really get quiet. You'll feel the shift as it steps in because it's so much more peaceful. It's almost like a wise grandmother energy to me. So to connect with that, if you can, find what really lights you up and add that to your days. So whether that's an outfit, I really believe in the power of loving what you're wearing and the energy that can give us, and let your soul express itself on the outside. Maybe you can fix up something in your physical environment so it really reflects you, maybe a little altar. Um, even just reading a book that really lights you up if that's what excites you. And I'm always
Mm.
huge on journal prompts and free writing. So if you're not familiar, just sit down with paper and let every thought that comes into your head pour out through your pen. Even if it's as simple as, I don't know what to write, this feels so silly, it kind of feels stupid. Keep it going. And if you can stick with that practice long enough, all of a sudden something that does not feel like your regular self will step in, and the wisdom that can come through that pen will blow your mind.
Oh, I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so great. I feel like everyone just like needs to find you and talk to you to be like, it's okay to be me. Like
Yeah,
that's what
that's
I
kind of,
feel like they need to know. Like, and that's what I feel like your greatest message, like, is for now and forever for people is like just to be unapologetically you. It's great to be you. It's safe to be you,
yeah.
and just keep being you. And I also believe in the power of loving what you're wearing. Like literally tonight before our call, I was like, babe, tomorrow I'm gonna wear a dress. And he started laughing. He goes, why? I'm like, because I want to wear one of my dresses, and we haven't gotten dressed up in like 4 weeks, and I'm gonna wear it for supper tomorrow night. And he's like, okay, I'll put on something nice too. I'm like, okay, like just to like
Oh,
feel
I love
good
that.
in wearing that, like just for something different. Even if it's just the two of us. I'm like, let's do this. Let's wear something nice. Let's do something different.
Absolutely. I believe that like everything can either add to our energy or detract from it. So if you're wearing clothes that don't feel like your soul expressed on the outside, it's going to deplete you. If you're around people that don't help you add to that, it's going to deplete you. I really believe in carrying around a notebook when you're kind of in that in-between phase to see what really lights me up. Because a lot of people say, like, I have no idea. I have no idea what my soul is saying. I have no idea what my intuition wants or what that feels like. And I just really think our environment plays a huge role, physical environment, what we're wearing, who we're around, what we're feeding ourselves mentally and spiritually as well as physically.
Thank you so much. Do you
Thank you.
have any final like words of wisdom or anything that you'd like to share?
I would just say that every dream you've ever had for your life is smaller than what is actually possible, what you can create and what you can have, just by tapping into your soul and letting it lead the way. You will have more purpose and more fulfillment than anything you could have ever possibly imagined.
I see like a little like hand emoji up. Like I feel like so many women and men are gonna hear that and be like, thank you. Like that message was for me too. That's incredible. It's so true that we get stuck in this so smallness of being
Yeah,
small when
I
it's
don't know.
like your capacity is beyond.
Yeah, I just really believe in following those dreams because I believe they are divinely given. And if we could all just tap into that and follow it, then our world would have all the solutions it could ever possibly need.
Thank you so much for your words of wisdom and confidence and the work that you're doing. And I cannot wait to share this and share your praise and be like, everyone, you need to be friends with her, and maybe we can all hang out one day
That would be
and
amazing.
do
Maybe
something together. Like,
yes, we definitely need to do that.
yes.
Thank you so
Can you
much.
also share like your Instagram handle, if you have a website?
Yeah, so website is www.unsettled.com. Instagram is, I don't even know for sure, but I think is unsettle_your_life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Facebook is just Melissa Ross or Unsettle Your Life. There's a little business page there, but definitely Instagram, a website are the two main ways you can get in touch with me. Instagram's the one I'm on every day, the most interactive for sure.
That's great. Thank you so much, Melissa. I appreciate you taking the time to make space for our talk together tonight. And again, persevering through the technical times.
Hey, it's all good. Thank you so much for having me.